It seems to happen like clockwork. As soon as a warranty runs out, things break and they're no longer covered. When your car is in that situation, though, you could be staring down thousands of dollars in repair bills. CarShield begins where your warranty ends, with service plans that cover those expensive surprises. They pay your favorite mechanic or dealership directly, making the entire process fast and easy. Get a free quote by calling 800-416-6522 or visit carshield.com to get your free quote.
A man was dead in a Michigan junkyard, and there were no clues or forensic evidence at the scene. But computer forensic experts found evidence of a crime that had everything: sex, lies, and a videotape. On November 8, 1999, Chuck Miller got a frantic call from his sister-in-law. His brother, Bruce, was missing. Bruce hadn't come home for dinner, and he wasn't answering his telephone at work. Chuck drove out to his brother's junkyard to look for him.
The door was shut. I opened the door and walked in and hollered his name. He wouldn't answer. And we walked around the corner of the desk, and he was laying on the floor.
Bruce Miller was dead of a gunshot wound to his chest. The telephone receiver was near his head. Bruce normally kept around $2,000 in his front shirt pocket to make change for his customers. That money was missing. The motive appeared to be robbery.
$2,000 cash in the pocket would look good to a lot of people in the area.
We just thought it was just a random, someone just walked in and shot him because he always kept money in his front pocket and took that money. And
it just appeared to be another robbery, another day in Flint.
Criminalists from the Michigan Crime Lab used one-sided tape to collect possible evidence from Bruce's shirt.
The tape lift that I took from this particular victim only had his own head hair on it. There was nothing foreign that was determined on the tape lift.
And there were other signs that this crime scene was a little too clean.
We're talking about a business that hadn't been cleaned and probably since it opened. We're talking grease, oil, everything that leaves a good latent print, a good boot impression.
So he knew what to touch, what not to touch, and might have even taken other protective measures in order for him not to be found.
It was also troubling that Bruce was on the phone when killed. But to whom was he speaking?
No one's called and said, I was on the phone with Bruce Miller and I heard a gunshot. There's no latent prints that were, no bloody prints, no money fallen where they were in a hurry to get it out. Why the pocket wasn't ripped when they're taking the money out.
Bruce Miller was 48 years old. 6 months earlier, he married 28-year-old Cherie, and he was about to adopt her 3 children.
By all accounts, seemed to be a very hardworking, kind of mellow guy who, took a chance with marrying Cherie Miller and her kids and taking on that load, as well as having 2 jobs, working at General Motors, as well as running a junkyard.
According to friends and family, it was a happy marriage.
She would talk to them in length about Bruce Miller, how he was the best thing that ever happened to her, how he was a good lover, how her kids endeared him. This was an older gentleman that caught the young woman, and he treated her like a princess.
Cherie had been at home all day with her children and several friends and wasn't considered a suspect. But she had a pretty good idea of who might be responsible. She told detectives that one of her former boyfriends, John Hutchinson, owed her husband several $1,000s.
Bruce had run-ins with John in the past, arguing over him stealing auto parts from the business late at night, and they argued just recently over a sale of a $20 tire to John Hutchinson's stepson.
Hutchinson claimed he was at home alone at the time of the murder. It was an alibi that couldn't be corroborated. It would take a second death before detectives would get to the truth. John Hutchinson emerged as the key suspect in junkyard owner Bruce Miller's murder. Hutchinson agreed to take a lie detector test. He collapsed during the examination.
John Hutchinson had some kind of episode where he ended up going to the hospital, but apparently he was pretty stressed out by this polygraph, which he did not pass.
But police needed more evidence than a polygraph. The autopsy revealed Bruce had been killed with a 20-gauge shotgun. In a search of Hutchinson's home, police didn't find a 20-gauge shotgun, bloody clothing, or the missing money.
The feeling was he had probably done it. We've exhausted all of our leads. This is our best prime suspect. What aren't we doing? What can we do differently to make it work so we can get the truth?
Weeks went by, then months. There had been no new leads in the case. But something unusual happened 700 miles away in Kansas City, Missouri. A former homicide investigator named Jerry Cassidy was found dead in his home, his gun still in his hand. There was a Bible in his lap, divorce papers were on his desk, and a report showing he had recently been treated for depression. In a trash can outside the home, police found a videotape marked for Jerry's eyes only. It appeared to be a home video of a woman dancing seductively.
Definitely a seductive tool, something you would send a guy that you're trying to seduce.
Friends told police they thought the woman on the tape was Jerry's girlfriend who lived in Flint, Michigan, and that her name was Cherie. When investigators called police in Flint, they knew just who they were talking about.
It was like getting hit upside the head with a sudden shock. It's like, I can't believe it. She duped me.
Cherie Miller was brought into police headquarters for questioning.
She claimed that she did not even know Jerry Cassidy.
This is an audio recording of the actual interrogation.
Did you ever send naked pictures of yourself to Jerry?
No.
Did you ever send Jerry films of you naked?
Films of me naked? No, I didn't.
You never sent those to Jerry?
No, I did not.
When we showed her that we had this videotape of her for Jerry Cassidy, written right on the tape, for Jerry's eyes only. So she went from not knowing Jerry Cassidy to turn around, I know him, but he's crazy.
Isn't it true that you were having a physical relationship with Jerry?
Maybe online.
No, I'm talking in person.
No.
In person?
No.
Cherie said she met Jerry Cassidy in a computer chat room.
Just messing around. I mess around online all the time just to figure out something new to do. Everybody does it.
Computer forensic experts confiscated Cherie's computer as well as Jerry Cassidy's. And what they discovered inside answered some important questions, but raised many others.
This is one of the most bizarre cases I've handled in the 10 years I've been dealing with this subject matter. There was deception. There was a love triangle. Whenever there's an internet connectivity issue that relates to a murder case, of course it's going to be sexy.
Things were starting to get interesting.
This program is brought to you by Generation Y, a podcast from Wondery. Imagine you have two friends who are obsessed with stories of crime, murder, and unsolved mysteries. That is Generation Y, a podcast where hosts Aaron and Justin explore theories, dive into forensic evidence, and share their opinions. In an all-new episode, Generation Y examines the case of Jonathan Amaral, a 25-year-old biomedical engineer in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. One weekend, he goes off on a hiking trip. He never comes back. After Jonathan fails to show up for work, his mother finds out and reports him missing. That same day, Brittany Barron, who is 31 and one of Jonathan's coworkers, calls in to quit her job, and now she's missing too. Jonathan and Brittany are rumored to be having an affair. So did the two run off together, or has something more sinister happened? Listen to the Generation Y podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or you can listen 1 week early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app.
Police sent Cherie Miller's computer and the one used by her suspected lover, Jerry Cassidy, to an expert in the new field of computer forensics.
I get the stuff that's been deleted. I get the space that's unused by the computer. I get everything. And that's what I examine as a computer forensic specialist.
Forensic computer specialists can also gain access to password-protected accounts on a hard drive. Investigators easily made their way into Jerry's and Cherie's private files.
I believe we had like 300-400 bookmarks, fragments that I had found that were relevant. There were probably thousands of hits on her name on just the Cherie 1013.
Investigators found incriminating evidence on Jerry's computer and in his private papers. It was an instant message conversation in which Jerry and Cherie discussed murder.
I'll call Bruce at 5 p.m. and tell him to call when he's leaving. Jerry, I'm scared. Is the gun loud? It's deer hunting season here.
Inside would be best, muffled.
Pull up to the left of the building, right to the door. He'll stay at the desk inside. Take his wallet. Take the whole thing.
There was discussion about pull the car up, I believe it was to the right side of the door of the office to the auto parts place, because then when you open up the driver's side door of the car, it would help hide a gun in your hand as you stepped out and went towards the front door of the business.
Police confronted Cherie with this computer message.
I'm telling you here, I have an email that lays it out right here in front of me about how you and Jerry Cassidy planned his murder.
That's wrong.
Okay. Why would Jerry even think about changing that?
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
I don't have a clue. Maybe because he was mad because I wouldn't have nothing to do with him.
Cherie said the instant messages were forged. Officials at AOL confirmed that this was a possibility.
It possibly could have been edited, but I couldn't say, in fact, it was authentic and did come through the American Online Service in its exact form.
It was very important for us to forensically back up this instant message and show that there was a relationship and show how she got Jerry Cassidy to kill her husband.
Under court order, AOL released information regarding Cassidy's and Cherie's computer activity. AOL verified that Jerry and Cherie were both signed onto the AOL service on the same day, at the same time, and for the same length of time as the instant message indicated. Cherie also took steps to cover her tracks.
A day and a half after the killing of her husband, she calls America Online to change her first and last name, to change her street address, city, state, and zip code. After she learned of the suicide of Jerry Cassidy, she did the same thing.
And Jerry's home computer showed hundreds of emails from the screen name Cherie 1013 that had been deleted.
The data is still there until such time as the computer needs to write something new, and the computer says, oh, that spot's open, I'll write it there now.
Among a stack of papers on Cherie's computer desk, investigators found the name John O'Connor, which was misspelled, and a telephone number in Cherie's handwriting. In the instant message which Cherie claimed was a fabrication, Jerry wrote, "If anything happens to me, call him, John O'Connor," with the same misspelling and his telephone number, which was also incorrect.
Certainly corroborates the fact that they had been communicating in that instant message.
It was 1 in 2 quintillion chances that that alone could have happened by coincidence. That's 19 zeros after the 2.
The forensic computer analysis also revealed the motive for the murder. In a moment, how Cherie Miller managed to fool a seasoned homicide investigator.
It's summer, which means that millions of people are on the roads, heading to and from vacation. Seeing that check engine light come on can cause major anxiety. It's never a good feeling, especially if your car's no longer covered under a warranty.